received. So that's very tough choices, and they have to decide what to do. So that happens like that. But that's of course from the point of view of democracy, I think it's one of the basic human rights was violated in that way. Because right to live is one of the basic rights of the people.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've had a question circling around in my consciousness for quite a while around the Japanese-Canadian community and other communities of color, just in terms of their relationship to the land here. Is there, I guess my question is there a healing movement within your culture around dealing with the traumas that you've experienced on these lands? Whether it's individual or family or collective. Because it's so important from my own experience for the young people to hear the elders speak about these things, the intergenerational transmission of knowledge, if you will, and the healing, right, that would bring is, so I just wonder about that. Is there a process, you know, it's like with the head taps with the Chinese Canadian and the South Asian community, they've had their own traumas on these lands, you know, so yeah, that's just a question that's been going around in my mind for a while.
Judy or Roy?
Do you want to say something about that?
Sad to say that I'm not aware of any such movement. I think our community can benefit with our leadership. Our community was driven by assimilation and knowledge. It's kind of invisible.
I'll say something last for you. Go ahead.
I wouldn't call it like a healing movement, but I do think that when the community reappears every year at Powell Street, there's a feeling of something really important happening there. I don't think it's framed in terms of healing the land, but I think it would be interesting to try to think about it in relation to that question, and maybe make space for more of that discussion.
And I think, yeah, the Powell Street Festival does seem to meet some needs in terms of bringing people together and having a sense of your own community, that important sense of community that comes from that experience of Powell Street every year. But personally, my sense is that there's not been a focused kind of I think time and energy to focus on healing in terms of understanding the importance of healing. And I know that redress, with the redress movement, I know Roy or everybody heard people say, you know, for the first time, I feel like I can speak about this. I can be open and speak about what happened to us. Mm-hmm. And so in that sense, I think there was that immediate sense of healing, which comes from, you know, taking your position of saying this thing that happened to us was wrong, and the release that comes from that. But I think in looking at a deeper effect, you know, within families, within the generations, there hasn't been what I would call an actual healing conference or a gathering of our people, of Japanese Canadians, to really look at those personal effects. And I think that something like that would be absolutely a very healthy and positive step to take. With every family, there's personal family issues. We had broken families before, immigration. We had broken families here, families that were dealing with domestic violence, mental health issues, alcoholism. A lot of the men who worked in the primary industries, as you know, fishing, forestry, there's drinking to forget the pain in your body or the pain in your mind or whatever, facing racism. So alcoholism is in our community, absolutely. And so we had families who had these personal issues and then facing racism, then facing internment and all those things. So it was like layers. And so I think, yes, of course, there's a real value in looking at the needs for healing. I also feel that our younger generations are the speakers, and they say, this is what happened to me. Did you know that, when it comes to what happened to Grandma and Grandpa, I don't have any idea because nobody talked about it. So of course they say to us, like, I want to be a healthy person. Let's look back. Mm-hmm. And as your First Nations communities do, there's such lessons in how you've looked at that and how you are that. And I would say, yes, it's time that we could do something like that.
Being Interment Memorial Center, the elders in New Denver tried to make that site a place where people could return and heal, and many people came through. But again, at a certain point, once they passed on, in some ways it's been taken over by the city, and it's turned into this multicultural history. So I think it's complicated. I think there's so many things. But Randy, did you?
Oh, I was going to say two things,
okay.
and one related to what Judy was talking about. That Judy was very key in helping organize honoring our people, breaking the silence, and that might have been the first actual conscious step in that process of bringing people together to talk openly.
Yeah, yes, that was interesting too, because we really didn't know whether or not the community thought we should share that story. And so we had to do some focus groups before that conference to find out, is it okay to help people to sit around in circles, as we learned from First Nations people, how they eat circles. Whether or not that would be acceptable in our community. And so we kind of took a chance in going ahead and organizing that one, remember?
We published the narratives. And the other was a footnote I wanted to add to it. Tatsuo had been interviewing this group of Canadian citizens who were probably children or teenagers trapped and stranded in Japan. And you may not know, but after the redress agreement in 1988, there was something called a redress advisory committee, and Roy and Paul Correa were the representatives of the NAJC on that committee. And they struggled and struggled with the government side, who refused to extend the individual redress payments to all of these people who were Canadian citizens, but they could not return to Canada until about 1950, because the Canadian legation would not hear them or assist them in any way. So it's not until 1996, which would be 8 years after the agreement had been settled, that these people were actually included in the redress agreement, because the initial position of the government was they were not under the War Measures Act because they were not living in Canada, therefore they were not eligible. So I guess it's 1996, I think. I flew out with 6 Nisei women who told their stories to Sheila Feinstein, who was the new incoming Minister for Multiculturalism. She had also been previously the minister in charge of women's rights. And we'd already gotten a commitment from Ted McWhinney, who was the Liberal MP in Quadra, I believe, that if the Liberals under Chrétien did form the next government, they would right this wrong. So that was what resulted in the inclusion of those people that Tatsuo referred to. I'm not sure, Tatsuo may have the figures, but My guess is there was probably 500 to 1,000 more people